Okay, Bismillah. والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد. Okay. Inshallah ta'ala, this week has been a little bit kind of hectic for me. So I haven't been able to prepare some of the slides for some of the classes. So today is going to be basically review with covering a little bit of new material from the book that we've been covering, dealing with the belief of the Muslims, belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the belief of As-Salaf As-Salih, the righteous predecessors. We're in the chapter dealing with the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the section dealing with the existence of Allah, and how do we get to know that Allah exists. And there's a lot of signs in the Quran, but of course, if you're reading the Quran or believe in the proofs that are in there, then you already believe in the existence of Allah. So most of the proofs that indicate the existence of Allah are geared towards someone that needs to be able to process that hasn't reached the level of Iman as of yet. So we talk about issues dealing with the creation. The creation itself is evidence to the existence of a creator. Our creation is evidence to the existence of a creator. Even just our respiratory system itself is a marvelous work of engineering. And the creation of the night and the day. So these are things that we spoke about dealing with the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now with that, that's just a little review. Those are the things that we covered last class. So we're not going to cover anything new as far as that subject is concerned, dealing with the issues of belief. So we're going to go now to the book of Fiqh, which we're going to do some review and cover a little bit of new material, bi'idhnillahi jalla jalaluh. Now, if you remember, we had stopped off at the things that are disliked to do during the prayer, the things which are disliked to do during the prayer. And there were 9 things that we counted, right? Like, for example, for the men, having their garments over their head or their shirt over their head. And what we mean by not really a shirt, obviously what we're talking about is something like between a mix between a thobe or you could say an Arab thobe or a Pakistani Bengali thobe, Indonesian, Malaysian thobe, where it reaches at least or close to around where the knee is. Okay, and if you were to put something like that, like for example, an individual that doesn't have but that to cover themselves, they place it over their head to, for example, protect them from the heat, and then continue wearing that into the prayer. This is something that is disliked because there is a likelihood in such a scenario that they might expose some of their parts of their body which should be covered, and that is why it is disliked. Other thing about grouping the hair on top of the head due to it interfering with the prayer. The next thing is the imam praying on a platform higher than the congregation, and the opposite as well is where the congregation prays on a platform higher than the imam. Both are disliked. They should be on even plane. Then we talked about sitting like a dog in the salat, and that is where you have your feet planted firmly on the ground. You have your butt resting on your heels, knees up, and hands on the ground. That is the sitting of a dog, or what is known as Aqeedah. And then we talked about praying while needing to use the bathroom, whether it's number 1 or number 2. This is disliked. Looking around is disliked. Facing another individual, that means praying to another individual with another individual in front of you, and he's facing you. Now, if you're praying to his back, that's something separate. Some scholars, they differ in that. They said that, even when you're praying to the back, that's still something that it's like. That's why you might see some people, they try their best not to pray in front of anybody, whether that person is facing them or, facing or has their back turned towards them. So you see that a lot. Another thing is closing your eyes during the prayer. And I don't think we covered this, even though it was obviously it's part of the those issues that are disliked. And this is, of course, is without need. For example, if you have something that is distracting you in your prayer, you can close your eyes. If that gives the salat more tranquility, more concentration, and things like that. But the asl, or the default, is that you don't close your eyes during prayer, and that your eyes should be fixed on your place of prostration, like has been recorded in the authentic narration of the Prophet Muhammad salawatullahi wasalamu alayhi. So those are the issues that are disliked. Now we're going to cover new material, bi'idhnillahi jalla jalalu. So what we're covering today, we're going to be covering aspects dealing with those things that invalidate the prayer now. Okay, so we've already done those things which are disliked. We talked about the sunan. We talked about those things that are obligatory. Now we're going to talk about those things that will invalidate the prayer. So the Sheikh, he says, and we're talking about Sheikh Abdul Ghani an-Nabulusi, rahimahullah. He says, wa yufsidul kalamu mutlaqan idha mithla kalamin nasi kana wa kadha. So here the Sheikh, he's mentioning from the things which invalidate the salat is talking in general. And the type of general talking we're talking about here is the speech that's just normal speech, right? Like everyday speech, like, hey, hi, how you doing, whatever. Like that, in general, that will invalidate the prayer. So from that first line of poetry, we only cover one of the issues which invalidate the prayer, which is speaking during the salat. So speaking during the salat is validation, will invalidate the prayer. So if someone calls, your mother call you, and you can't say, I'm praying. You can't say that. Okay. Hold on. Seems like I'm missing something here. Okay, I guess not. Okay. All right, then the Sheikh, he says, Aklu wa shurbun wa tanahnuhun bila aklun wa shurbun wa tanahnuhun bila dururatin wa kullu sawtin hamala. So here the Sheikh adds to the issues which invalidates the prayer is eating while praying or drinking while praying. So this could also be included in that, for example, chewing gum. right? Having something sweet in your mouth, or like some candy or something like that. You think you're gonna put it in your cheeks or something like that, and just have it because you just opened the wrapper. You didn't want to just put it to waste. No, that's not permissible. That is considered eating in the prayer. Okay, so that's something that you don't want to do because that will invalidate the prayer. Okay, and clearing the throat without any need. Clearing the throat without any need will invalidate the prayer, as well as any sound coming from the mouth comprising of, and what I mean by sound is like, anything that comprise out of more than two sounds, like, saying, for example, or something like that. But if you just go, that's one sound that does not invalidate the prayer. And anything more than that, obviously more than two sounds, will invalidate the prayer. So far we've covered 5 things which will invalidate the prayer: speaking during the prayer, eating, drinking, clearing the throat, of course, clearing the throat out of without necessity, and any noise from the mouth. Now, the Shaykh, he then goes on to say harfani, which we were talking about, it comprising of 2 sounds, right? Harfani minhu wa kadhal jawabu yuqsadu bil Qur'ani wal khitabi. Actually, that should be khitabu. I don't know why, I must have been typing that kind of fast. So what does this mean? So what he's trying to say here is not only is speech in general will invalidate your prayer, any type of what you call regular speech will invalidate the prayer, but also Quran that is used to answer or address someone outside of the prayer. You can use certain verses in the Quran to address someone. Like, for example, someone is knocking on the door, right? So you say something like "Udkhulu bis salam." You tell them to enter with peace, aminin, and without and with safety or in safety, and you take that right from the Quran, right? And you recited that while you're praying, where your intention was to answer the person that is knocking on the door, letting them know that it's okay for them to come in, right? That will invalidate the prayer. Also, if you address someone, like, telling someone to anything, an example that they give, some of the scholars give, is if you're praying, like, I guess, next to a shipyard, and, your son is like, next to you or somebody, something like that, and they start boarding the ship, right? So you use a verse in the Quran where Allah says, irkab, which is get on the ship, right? Or get on. And you're addressing, even though you're praying using Quran, right, in your recitation, but what you meant by that is to address the individual, telling them to get on board the boat or the ship. So all of those types of example, that is something that is impermissible to do, and you don't get away with it because you're reciting Quran. And it will invalidate your salah. So far we've covered speaking during prayer, eating, drinking, clearing the throat without necessity, any noise from the mouth, an answer or to address using the Quran, to answer someone or to address someone using the Quran. Okay. The next thing the Sheikh says here, Sheikh Abdul Ghani An-Nabulusi rahimahullah, he says, وَالْعَمَلُ الْكَثِيرُ وَالتَّحْوِيلُ فِي وَالْعَمَلُ كثير والتحويل في صدر عن القبلة والعذر نفي. So here the Shaykh, he mentions two things which will invalidate the prayer. One is a lot of movement, moving around, moving your arms, moving your feet excessively. So a lot of movement will invalidate the prayer. And here, there is no measurement for what is considered a lot of movement, which is the best way to have it. The best way to leave it is leave it to the judgment of what is known from amongst the people to be a lot of movement. But some scholars, they say that, anything above 3 movements. So if you go like this, wave your hands 3 times, or, scratch yourself here and scratch yourself here and scratch your leg, that's 3 times. So anything like that and above is something which will invalidate the prayer. Another thing which would invalidate the prayer is facing away from the Qibla, facing away from the direction of prayer. So you're praying facing the Qibla, and doing the prayer, you decide to turn either left or right, turn your body left or right away from the direction of prayer. So doing that would also invalidate the prayer. So with that, we've covered 8 things: speaking during prayer, eating, drinking during prayer, clearing the throat, any noise from the mouth, answer or to address someone using Quran while you're praying, excessive movements during the prayer, and turning away from the Qibla. And with that, we are done. Are there any questions?
Assalamu alaikum. Imam, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Say you're in a situation where, you try to use on your phone the, I can't even think of the word right now, but where it shows you like the compass. And say your compass, for whatever reason, is just not working. And you're trying to figure out where the Qibla is, and, the time is going out. So you just decide that you're going to pray. Would that invalidate your prayer?
No, that won't invalidate your prayer. If using those apps is one of the best ways that you can try to use to assess which is the direction of prayer, and you try other means, meaning that, or there is no way else for you to know, and it's acting like kooky and stuff like that. It's sometimes going a little bit this way and a little bit that way, and you tried your best, that does not invalidate your prayer. The important thing is that you attempt, or you make the attempt to try to validify the direction of the Qibla. And that's very difficult when there's no sun out, so you don't know where east or west is, or you get turned around inside of a building and you're not able to ask anyone. You make your best judgment and you pray. And that does not invalidate your prayer.
Shukran.
Afwan, anyone else?
Yes, I had a question.
Wa alaikum
Can you hear
salam.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
When you were talking about moving around in the prayer, how, and as far as invalidating the prayer, how does that relate as far as when you have children? Let's say I'm praying and the child is getting ready to touch something harmful. Can you, if I do something to alert or divert their attention from the harmful thing, does that invalidate my prayer? Or like when you see women, they're holding the baby in the salah and the baby is maybe moving around and, being difficult. If that causes them movement, does that invalidate the prayer? I just wanted to, if you can give us some more,
That one,
expound on that.
the first example you give, you can, if you can do something to prevent that child from endangering himself, which with as I guess you could say, as less movement as possible, meaning that, you know, you stretch over, you grab them or her real quick, you know, that's considered okay, because you only used one movement or two movement in order to make that happen. It's not excessive. You know what I'm saying? Now the issue is this: if you had to like run 3 spaces forward, grab them, pull them back, you know, that's when you get into an issue. And the best thing to do if you feel that you're going to have to make excessive movement is to break the prayer, take care of what you need to take care of, and then pray again.
But let's say like you just snap your fingers or something, just to get their attention away
That's
from.
okay.
Okay.
And as for the other one where the person is like holding the child, there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars. We know that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray with Hussein, Hassan, particularly Hassan, on him, you know, either on his back or in his arm. But some of the scholars, they explain this by saying that this is talking about the optional prayer. And this is not something that can be used to specify all of the prayers and stuff like that, that it's allowed for you to do that and there's no problem. And Allahu Ta'ala A'lam, but what it seems to me that there's a gray area there and that it's allowed, but one should try to mitigate that as much as possible. So inshallah Ta'ala, it shouldn't be a problem, especially if it's done for the benefit of the prayer, right? Which is if she leaves him out of her hands, the child out of her hands, whether it's a male or a female child, you know, that child might get into trouble, cause more distraction or worry for the person that's praying, not knowing what that child is up to, because now the child has crawled or walked behind her back and she can't see what that child is doing. So now her mind is concentrating on that instead of the salat. So in a scenario like that, it's best for you to hold that child in your arms or whatever, or next to you, inshallah, and that will not invalidate the prayer because it actually helps to benefit the prayer. Any other questions?
I had one last question.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about as far as speaking in the salah, that applies to like if you sneeze and saying alhamdulillah, right?
Yes.
I didn't hear you mention that example.
Yes, our companion actually did that. And
I might have missed it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I didn't mention it. So
Okay.
it's glad that you brought that up. Yeah, like something like that and things. You can't do that in the prayer. You can wait until after the prayer, or you can say it in yourself, meaning say it within yourself, like in your mind. You could be like, no, without, of course, speaking it. You know, some scholars say that you can do that, but you could do that, or you could wait until after the prayer to say it, but you can't say it during the prayer. Companion did that, and the Prophet ﷺ rebuked him for that, saying that the salah is not for that. Anything else? Okay, then with that, we'll close up class by saying Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.